Well, hi folks, Aaron Dorr here again with the New York State Firearms Association. I'm joined again today with State Senator George Borello. And George, you're leading the fight for stand your ground law for gun owners in Albany. But today we're talking more about, well, it's kind of being called the gun control mega bill in Albany. It's kind of combining all of the worst notions of the gun grabbers right now in Albany into one monstrous bill. And we're talking about AB-7771 and Senate 3018. And again, this is like the worst we've ever seen, and that's saying something for New Yorkers. Let's break this down for a minute. The chassis behind this bill is the idea of a mandated mental health exam for gun owners as a condition of buying a firearm. And I just even say that out loud, this is the kind of stuff you would see Chairman Mao, and Uncle Joe Stalin talk about in the last century. This is the definition of tyranny for gun owners.
Well, there's no doubt about it. And when you look at this, these bills in whole, what this is about is they know that what they would really like to do is they would just like to outlaw guns in New York State.
Take them all.
That way, there'd be no legally possessed guns. Just the criminals would have guns here in New York State. That's their ultimate goal. They know that they can't do that in one fell swoop. So what they're trying to do is make it more and more difficult for people to legally possess firearms. Law-abiding gun owners exercising their Second Amendment rights is what they want to eliminate. Because, quite frankly, they could care less about the criminals that they've let out of jail that are committing gun violence. Even now in New York City, committing a gun crime is questionable whether or not you're going to go to jail.
Right.
So this is all about getting guns out of the hands of those that own them legally and responsibly, but not addressing the true criminals. And that's what this entire this bill and the series of requirements is about. It's about making it nearly impossible to own a gun.
Yeah, well, I'm happy you say it that way, because for a long time there was still kind of these holdouts in the gun rights space that thought, well, maybe it will stop some crime. But we're past all that now in New York. These bills and the bills like them, it's all designed to demonize and harass gun owners. Because let's be honest, anybody who sits through a state-sanctioned, Governor Hochul-sanctioned mental health exam is going to have a tough time passing a mental health test. Did you vote for Trump? You're out of here. Do you support the Second Amendment? You're out of here. Who decides? The point here is not could you pass a mental health exam. The point is this is absolute tyrannical garbage. This is totally unconstitutional. But if it's being pushed, we have to push back, because as these things grow, without opposition, they're going to grow and they're going to fester more. But what you mentioned is also true. The criminals who are running wild across New York State, I mean, maybe those mostly peaceful protesters in 2020 should have passed a mental health exam before they shot, robbed and looted their way across New York State and across the country. It's all designed to demonize us. The next big part of this bill, though, is kind of additional part of that, is it's a requirement to pass a drug test to own a firearm. And some people might say, well, I can pass a drug test. Again, that's not the point, though, with this.
Shouldn't have to, first of all.
Exactly.
If you look at what we have done to, in the name of the constitutional right to vote, we want to remove all these safeguards from voting. And what's the reason? Well, that's my constitutional right. I shouldn't have to show an ID. I shouldn't have to prove who I am. I shouldn't have to sign.
Be a citizen?
Yes, I shouldn't have to be a citizen. I shouldn't have to actually even sign the ballot that I'm casting.
Right.
And whenever you push my far left colleagues as to why that should be allowed when it's clearly an issue of integrity, and they always say, well, it's your constitutional right. And my immediate response is, well, then
exactly.
Should we remove every safeguard then that you like in exercising my constitutional right?
Exactly.
To bear arms?
Exactly. That opens up the floodgates on the voting side. This does the opposite. It contracts who can own a firearm. And again, the point in all of this is to just make it impossible. If it can't get you here, we're going to get you here. If it can't get you here, we're going to go for here. And the third part of this then is one more notch in that attempt, and it requires a 5-hour shooting exam with the firearm you hope to buy. I'm not sure how you're supposed to have the gun if you haven't bought the gun, and you have to pass the test with a 90% ability on the shooting course. And again, the point is not, can a gun owner pass the test? Gun owners are fantastic shots because we actually take it seriously. We're not trying to go shoot up a gas station. We're trying to defend our family. That we should never, ever be forced by the state to pass an exam on this when it comes to owning a firearm. Again, if they cared about public safety at all, they would pull back all the criminals they've released onto our streets over the last couple of years through bail reform laws and their COVID-19 responses. This has nothing to do with public safety at all. The final part of this then, George, deals with a requirement to show that you have a gun safe in your home. And again, the point here is not about a gun safe. Most guys have them. You're supposed to have them anyway. That's not the point. The point is, how many criminals in Albany or Rochester or the city store their illegal firearms in a gun safe?
Yeah. Well, again, yeah, they absolutely are oblivious to the fact that better than 90% of gun violence occurs with legally possessed guns. And having all these additional requirements is just about putting more obstacles in the way of legal gun owners, making it impossible for law-abiding citizens to own a gun. And that's what this is all about. And these, the sponsors that you see here, the people that will support this, the people that will speak in favor of this in committee and on the floor of the Senate and the Assembly are the same people that believe that nobody should be in jail ever for anything. So we're releasing people...
Except for gun owners.
Yes, exactly. It's about making criminals into victims and making law-abiding citizens look like outlaws.
Exactly. A lot of people ask the question, well, what's the point in even trying to fight back? These people have the votes. But I'm going to tell you right now, and we can ask George here on the spot to kind of give his thoughts on this, but there's different divisions right now in Albany that, if we know about these things, can help us stop garbage like this. You've got your AOC style, Kevin Parker style, far left radicals who want to take away every gun we own and just destroy our Second Amendment completely. And then you've got your Republican conference, of which you are a part, but you also have this other, we'll call them more traditional Democrats, or at the very least, more self-interested Democrats, and they're getting the concern now that's kind of coming from across the state and across the country that Joe Biden might just tank their conference if they're not careful as we approach the midterms. And so for a lot of these guys right now, I'm not saying they're pro-gun at all. We know they're not pro-gun, but just from a sake of self-interest and wanting to preserve their seat and preserve control of the Senate, there's a growing sense that they're trying to put the brakes on this stuff quietly.
Absolutely. First of all, if you look at places where we have common sense, particularly in upstate New York, Long Island, you have to ask the question of your legislator or those folks that are running for the Senate or the Assembly, where do you stand on bills like Senate 318? Where do you stand on Stand Your Ground? That's important because it will be your opportunity to find out, do they support your rights as gun owners? And then you can make a decision when the time comes. But the bottom line is, that's why standing up for things against bills like this, irresponsible, unconstitutional bills like this, is critically important. And it's your opportunity to exercise your right as a citizen and a voter to ask your legislators, where do you stand on these bills? Because
the reality is, if we don't, then bills like this are going to begin to take up more and more, get more and more support. They're gauging the resistance right now of gun owners in Albany, trying to figure out, this is kind of the AOC, conference, we'll call them. Are they going to fight back or not? And if we don't fight back, then what we're going to see is they're going to go to more of the more vulnerable Democrats, who are facing stiffer re-elections, and they're going to say, no one cares. You can support this. It's not going to hurt you. And so this is our time now to stand up tall and push back aggressively and say any attempt to advance gun control bills like this, or any of the rest of the gun control agenda in Albany, will be met with resistance stiff at election time to hold these people accountable. And there's a lot of vulnerable seats that are coming up in the 2022 midterms. So folks, this is a major threat to gun rights. That's very obvious. Now's our chance to stand up. So hit the link below, take action, send your email, sign your petition, and make sure your legislators know in Albany you're watching this bill very closely, and you're going to hold anybody accountable who votes for unconstitutional trash like this. Thank you, guys.